करना चलाओ. Assalamu alaikum viewers. NLPmantra.com की तरफ से from NLPmantra.com. Here's Mohammed Ali once again welcoming you to another amazing episode of Sports Baythak. Today's Sports Baythak is very dear and near to my heart because it is going to be with an amazing person, a very good friend, and I would say one of the best probably coaches I have ever met in my life. So I will, without further ado, a former English player, a former head coach and director of sports from Durham County. I'm going to welcome Mr. Geoff Cook with us on screen. Let's welcome him. Hi Jeff, good evening. How are you? Good afternoon, in fact, for your time.
Hello, Ali. Thank you very much. Yes, it's nearly evening here in England, so nice to speak to you again.
Yeah, same here, Jeff. Same here. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to meet you, and to share ideas with you. Jeff, for my viewers' sake, I always request my guests, although they all know them, but still I love my guests to give a few lines about themselves so that viewers can also have a feeling. So if you can introduce a little bit about yourself to the viewers.
Yes, Ali. Well, I mean, I don't like to speak about myself, but I can give some sort of facts
Yes.
that many people have a dream of earning a living or being involved in sport, things that they love doing, um, to to make that dream accessible. And I've been one of the lucky ones to be involved in professional sport, professional cricket, for nearly 50 years, both as
Only.
a
Only.
player. You can't even believe it, 50 years. I
Yeah.
progressed from being a player at the age of 20 to playing for 18 or 19 years as a professional, played with some brilliant players, played with Pakistan guys like Mushtaq Mohammed, Safraz Nawaz, who were legendary test players in Pakistan. And from my playing days, I then went into cricket administration and coaching, helping the development of a new first-class county in the north of England, Durham, and I've been here ever since 1992.
Wow.
Just retiring at the end of last year.
Great. Jeff, I know that you have been running some youth programs there in Durham, which have been a great success. I remember one time I was talking to Shahzad and I said, I wish I was a youth and I could go back to playing with Jeff because I heard a lot about your program. Jeff, my question to you before we actually talk about the program in details is cricket, sports in general and cricket in special. They say, I remember one of the statements from Steve Waugh. He said 90% of the game is played in your mind. Now, how true is that? Is it really a mind game or it is only a physical game?
I think it becomes more and more a test of the mental strength. The higher up the cricketing ladder that you get, if you as a young developing cricketer, say as a talented young developing cricketer, perhaps a teenager, then if you have exceptional ability, you will you will be above the rest, above your contemporaries because of that ability. But as soon as you get higher up the scale, then you become tested by some players of equal ability, and that's when you have to have things in addition to your natural playing ability, and the mental side of things becomes really paramount.
Great. But what is the reason then, Jeff, that people do not really value mental strength to that level? I mean, at least, and you have been associated with cricket in this part of the world as well, and I rarely see, people talking about the mental strength and the mental fitness and all those sorts of things. What do you think? What is the missing element?
Well, I don't think there's anything missing. People get a little bit confused between players with ability, who are obviously at a certain level of being able to perform, and their become confused with that ability, with the ability to turn that ability into performance, which is really where the mind comes in. And that is the crucial thing. I know that as a coach or a uh, cricket player developer, if you like, I quickly learned that one of the first appraisals that you had to make was of uh, the player's ability to play under pressure, and did he enjoy that ability to play under pressure? Did he search that desire to play under pressure? And those who do, those who search it out, those who handle it and cope with it and come out at the other end of it, are invariably the people who perform when the going gets really tough.
Great. And Jeff, then how do you actually inculcate this as a coach, especially when you are playing, when you are with your, I mean, in fact, you have two sides. So let me ask you, as a player, when you started playing test cricket for England, you would have been under a lot of pressure. You played test, you played one days. How did you cope, or how did you coach yourself for, and how did you prepare yourself for this mental pressure?
It's a very good question, Ali, and I'm probably a pretty good example of what to do and what not to do and when to do it. And I found that I suppose throughout my playing career that if I was in good form and feeling confident about my ability to perform in various situations, then I would go out in a really positive frame of mind and uh, be able to assess the whole situation. If my form wasn't so great, uh, and that would give an inferiority complex to a certain extent, then I was far more vulnerable to not having success than players who should be, who've got that mental strength to be able to fight their way through situations.
But then Jeff, does it, is it only dependent on the form, or you actually spend time to understand the how to handle? You did some exercises, because we do a lot of physical exercises. Are there
Yeah,
any mental exercises?
I think I'm just talking about my own. If I felt in form and had some good performances behind me, where my confidence levels were high, then I found it easier to cope with those precious situations where the crowd might be bigger, the media coverage might be greater, the whole the status of the game might be greater. So form mattered to me, but and sometimes it doesn't matter to certain people. They will approach things whether they've got 100 behind them or a zero behind them, and their desire to come out on top at the other end will always be their strongest point.
Great. So as a coach, then now you have seen this as a player. Now, when you became a coach, and then in fact coach of coaches, I would say
Yeah.
you actually groomed a lot of coaches under you. So how did you inculcate the importance of mental fitness in your players?
Ali, the whole um, coaching and development of cricket as young cricketers has changed so much. It's become far more scientific than a lot of people would ever have imagined. When I was a player, you were left very much to your own devices. You might have a mentor that you would talk to, that you would practice with, that you would prepare with. You might have a captain who would steer you in the right direction. But coaches of cricket teams and cricket players were few and far between. And those coaches have developed into many fold now. And part of the education of the cricket coach is to have that this scientific background where the development of their mental strength, their mental skills, is very much part of their education to become a well qualified, active, strong contributing coach.
But okay, that's of course as part of the coaches. But what I basically wanted to come down to was that, are there any, like for example, if somebody wants to practice his cover drive, You will go
Yeah.
out and tell him that you need to practice so many times, and
Yes.
uh, get the skill ingrained in you. Similarly, if somebody is weak mentally and you know the guy has a potential, what kind of mental strengthening exercises would you recommend him, or how would you ensure that you work on his mental strength and he becomes a better coach, a better player? Sorry.
Well, I think we've alluded to one or two of the points already. You know, a lot of the skills that the coaches are taught now in terms of sports science, the things like visualization skills,
Absolutely.
the the importance of creating habits, creating things that you do on a regular basis. Those things give you strength, they give you satisfaction, they give you a lot of internal support, and that is such a vital part of your progress in terms of preparing to play or preparing to practice.
Absolutely. This is exactly what I wanted to narrow it down to, these, small techniques that people I think in UK probably it is easier said than done. But even if our players in UAE or here in Pakistan, people do not understand the importance of visualization, or spending time and learning those skills. And this one of the reasons why, Jeff, as I discussed with you, the reason I started this sitting was to let people know that anybody who has to reach the top has to do something which is different. As you've said very rightly, that one of the qualities you would look in a player is that how he can handle pressure.
Hmm.
So, and to do that, visualization, or even priming, or any of these techniques that people are using in that part of the world, what do you think, because you have been associated with UAE cricket as well, with Shehzad,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
coming and going, and you have seen the players. Right, also, my son is played with you as well. So, what do you think that these players they miss, that they do not give right emphasis and right understanding to this one small aspect of mental? They only, all they think is, oh, go out and be strong. That's does it really help just to tell them go out and be strong?
Well, uh, it's the perfect world to go out and be strong and know how to be strong, but it's very
Absolutely.
difficult to define. And the more people are put in those pressure situations, be it in reality match situations or practice situations, you can help people's development of their skills, their mental skills, by simulating environments for them to play in, to learn in. And I think that's a really important thing. And it's that self-awareness all the time, to get evidence, for young people to get evidence for themselves, about themselves, to sit down with their coaches and talk it through, how they reacted, how they didn't react, uh, go away and then work as a team to try and work your way through. But I will always say that the these strengths are innate. They really are. You can teach and steer people in certain directions, but the people and the strongest people and the most successful people are those who already possess these almost in their DNA. And that's what you're wanting when you're trying to identify players who are going to be future stars, who are going to make significant contributions to the level and the teams that they play in.
Jeff, before I move forward, there is one question from a fast bowler here, and he's asked. He sent me personally. He said that he wants your reply on that. He's
Yeah.
saying that I am a fast bowler and always perform in pressure. I'm fully confident in game, but in other life, my confidence is very low. How can I perform in life like my sports? This is actually the other way around. Normally, people would ask
Yeah.
question. So, interesting one, Nisar.
Well,
Uh,
well, I think it's getting the right people around you, isn't it? And whether it's in
yes.
sport or whether it's in life, if you get people who can steer you in different directions, who can support you, advise you, when you're when things are going well, to keep your feet on the floor when things are going badly, to keep a perspective on things. It's getting the right people around you, and I think that's really, really important.
Yes, absolutely, Jeff. And they say that if you want to be a lion, you cannot walk with wolves. You have to walk with the
Yes,
lions.
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, very
So
much so.
absolutely, Jeff. You said one thing that when your form was down as a player, you would
Mm. Yeah.
you would feel down and stuff. What helped you come out of that patch? What advice would you give to those who are listening and they are for sometimes? First of all, I have a few guys who are listening. One of them, I don't want to mention any names. One of them always thinks, oh, my form, if I perform in one match, I won't be able to perform in the other match. For some odd reason, he has this myth. And the other guy who's listening,
Right.
he thinks that I'm only 17 and I have not been able to come to the under 19s, so my cricket is finished. I am not good for it. So these two guys, what would be your advice to them?
Well, I think the age question isn't, that's just not sensible. I think you've just got to keep these things in perspective. As a 17-year-old, you always want to be aiming for the moon,
Absolutely.
probably before you should be. Um, you've got to be able to keep things, that the perspective is such a really, really important thing. And if your thoughts and aspirations are getting too far ahead of themselves, uh, where reality says that they shouldn't be getting ahead of themselves, then you're trying to create, or you are creating pressure for yourself by getting unrealistic expectations. Um, I think in terms of the fast bowling or the physical side of things, then cricket has changed massively. The fitness levels of players is absolutely huge. But one part of feeling good about yourself before performance is making sure that your preparation has been as good as you possibly can make it. If you've prepared properly, doing everything that you should to give yourself every chance of performing, then that goes part of the way to creating a level of confidence which is in your control. And I think it's an old mantra: control the controllables. But so many of these things are, and it's when you're getting out of that comfort thing of trying to create things that are not in your control, then you start and create problems for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jeff. And Jeff, to the other part, which was that when you had a bad form and when you were not able to perform, how were you able to come out of that? What would you do? What Jeff Cook would do to lift himself out from there?
Well, a self-analysis is so important to make sure that you know your strengths, you're playing to your strengths, your preparation has been correct, your thought process is correct, your game plan is correct, your practice plan has been as good as you can make it. Then you just make sure that when you put your pads on or when you put your boots on, then you're very much in control of yourself. And as I say, if you're controlling what you can do, then you just hope the rub of the green goes your way.
Great. Jeff, as a coach,
The planning aspect is really, really important.
absolutely, Jeff. Absolutely, and fully agree
Yeah.
on that one. And now my next question is on Jeff as a coach, because I have seen you coaching kids. I have seen you even advising elder lads as well. Jeff, what is that mantra of yours that you become a magnet and people just get attracted and they actually value your advice? Are you a very high touch coach or you are a very high tech coach?
Well, I think the really important part of that is the relationship you develop with your cricketers, and whether they feel comfortable with you as somebody who's trying to direct them correctly. And that for me is always a really, really important, to get that relationship between player or team and yourself as close as possible. so that the players have confidence in you, have confidence in the way that you're trying to communicate with them.
Okay, and Jeff,
Communication is such an important part.
absolutely, Jeff. Absolutely, Jeff. Normally, what I have seen, especially the coaches in this part of the world, they are very strict. They would sometimes, flare up and do that. What advice would you give
Yeah.
to those coaches who actually are saying that we are doing this to build the confidence, or to build the strength of the person to face the pressure? How, if your player whom you are relying on, let's say he's playing on 92 or 93, and he throws his wicket and you lose the match, he's coming out of the ground, what would you do that?
But, I mean, it's very difficult to. This is just a very basic question without any background in it, and there may be a history or there may
Yeah,
not. But I think that communication and being able to time your communication is the crucial thing.
absolutely.
And what you say and when you say it becomes so important, and players generally don't
Sorry, Jeff, I
on
think I missed.
purpose.
Sorry, Jeff, I think we lost you. Can you please repeat? Players do not, you said players don't generally.
They don't. Players don't drop catches on purpose, and players don't get out on purpose, and they don't get hit for four on purpose. And it's accepting that, and just try to talk through their mental processes during that particular time is quite a key thing. Instead of jumping on the facts and trying to chastise them because of errors, let's try and develop the good bits, the positive side of things.
Absolutely, and this is why I actually asked this question, Jeff, because what you said the last
I
part.
think
Sorry, please go ahead.
No, I think judging from my association ship with players and coaches from your part of the world, is that it's far too easy to be critical, and criticism plays a part only up to a certain extent, and it's
Absolutely.
that support and that ability to build confidence is the key thing when you're trying to develop, especially young players.
Absolutely. And this was the reason, Jeff, I wanted to ask you this question, because I have been telling this a lot to coaches, that when you talk about mental strength, you talk about mental fitness, and you start criticizing and you start reprimanding a player who has not, of course, done it on purpose. And when you do that, you actually uh, bring his, whatever the confidence or whatever the mental level he had approached, you bring it down at least by 50%, if not more, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very easy as a coach to fall into that trap when you can, by being critical, you're being constructive, but very often it's quite the opposite way.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jeff. I think we are having a little bit of lag in terms of the sound, so viewers, please bear with us.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Okay.
there are technical issues going on, but anyways, I just finished. Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. That's exactly what my point was, Jeff. For the young players, uh, would you uh, would you like to describe a little bit of those mental strengthening techniques like visualization? How should they actually be visualizing? If you can give them some tips on that.
On visualization, did you say?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of it is imagination. It's imagining and knowing who you're playing against, seeing, picturing uh, their abilities, their techniques, so that you've got that picture in your mind, so it doesn't become a surprise when it turns to actuality. The environment is really important. The area in which you're practicing, or the the ground on which you're playing, to make sure that you've got a clear picture of what's ahead of you in that direction. So just taking advantages of all those things, that type of thing, is so important that when you picture yourself playing, it is near to the real thing as is possible. And
Absolutely.
you get the feel of your strengths, you get the feel of where you want to develop, where the competitive side of things will be, and that's where your an accurate imagination becomes really, really important.
Absolutely. And Jeff, where do we draw a line if it is a realistic imagination or it is illusion? Where do you draw that line that, oh, how do I know that I am whatever am I imagining is within my own capacity?
I think if it's not realistic, then you're not doing yourself any favors. It has to be based on likelihood and realism.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if I know that I am a player who can play, let's say I'm going number eight, and you start visualizing that I'll go and I'll hit a century in every match. Of course, that's unrealistic. So that's the mistake which people often do. I have seen that happening in front of me, and not only in. By the way, Jeff, but my point of view is that it is not only cricket where all these things are important. As a sportsman, in general, I think these all these things play a very important part in a sportsman's life, isn't it?
Sorry, Ali, I didn't pick that one up too well.
I said all these techniques
Visualization.
yeah, visualization and other mental fitness techniques and mental strength, are they only required in cricket or in sports in general?
In life in general, to
In
be
life.
able to recognize the times that you're going to be challenged and be ready for that challenge, and hopefully that the things that you provide for yourself, those techniques, that resilience, helps you come through those situations. And if they don't, then the ability to bounce back is just as important.
Absolutely, the ability to bounce back. And Jeff, is this something that can be learned or it has to be inherited?
I think the to see the idea that failure is a disaster has to be removed from your psyche. The old idea that it gives a chance to improve is very much to the fore. And if you search that out and take that on board and see that as an opportunity to get stronger and get a little bit better, and when that situation comes around again, you're better prepared for it, then all those things are taking you in the right direction.
Absolutely, Jeff. Absolutely. Uh, Jeff, as a player, I would like you to share a few just for the because sometimes people think that, oh, it's he's just talking about. If you can share a few or one or two at least uh, episodes of your own life as a player, especially when you were playing to the highest level, or what one or two events which you really would like people to understand that what does it mean, how to cope with a failure or how to cope when you are down.
I think rather than talk about myself, if the young cricketers who perhaps listening here relate to some of their contemporary players, one of at Durham, Ben Stokes,
Yes,
is perhaps turning into the best all-rounder in the world currently, and perhaps maybe the best ever. And a lot of the things that we've touched on, he really encapsulates them, personifies them. And as a young player, people thought he was a bit reckless, a bit wild, but all the time he had a real feel of the direction in which he wanted to travel. and he had a real feel in how good he wanted to be and what he wanted to achieve in cricket. And he never shouted from the rooftops. He got himself incredibly physically fit. He got himself with a very, very good technique. Became well, he always was amazingly competitive, whether he was playing golf or whether he was playing cricket or rugby. He was incredibly competitive at everything he tried to do. And he's put all those things into one basket, and he works things out to an incredible extent that people never thought he would be the type of player to be. People always thought he would be reckless, he wild and uncontrollable. But he's worked it out now, and he's perhaps the most controlled cricketer in world cricket now.
Absolutely great, a great example, Jeff. And it would have been my next question, because I know you played a lot of role in developing Ben Stokes. He was there in Sharjah even when any as a child as well. So how do you groom a cricketer like that?
Indeed, he did. Well, it's interesting. You deal with people in different ways. Ben was always given a lot of leeway to learn himself, develop his talent himself. We all recognise that to try and inhibit him as a person, as a player, as a cricketer, wouldn't be doing me any favours. So he was always given a lot of responsibility and a lot of freedom to go out and satisfy that responsibility for the good of himself and for the good of the team.
And you just said one thing before this one, that people thought he would be very reckless. When he came to you, did you have the same feeling about him?
No, not really. He didn't. If you look at his figures, he's not the greatest run scorer. He's not the greatest wicket taker that England has ever known. But he's
a match winner.
He wins more games than most people ever have at that level. And he was very much the same as a youth cricketer, when he played for Durham Academy or when he played for the development teams within Durham. If there was a situation where the game was 50-50 based and needed to be won by you, we always knew that if Ben was in the middle of the action, then we would have a more than 50-50 chance.
Excellent. Because the reason I asked this question is, Jeff, that a lot of coaches and a lot of people think that if you have a player who seems to be undisciplined, who seems to be reckless, who seems to be, so you should don't waste your time on him. He's going to be going nowhere. So that one eye of the coach, which actually can understand, and I'm sure not only Ben, any player like that, he always has respect for those who actually value his talent, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's down to the skill of the coach, down to the experience of the coach. Very often, the team of coaches around to be able to recognise the potential and trying to foster that potential.
Great, absolutely great. Jeff, as we have already discussed the importance of the mental fitness, we've discussed the importance of how to do the mental strengthening and stuff. I would like, I would like that if you can give an advice specifically to those who think, and I'm saying this, who think, because I'm doing these programs regularly. I've done with squash players, I've done with boxing players, I've done with cricketers. Most of them, they all say we know it is important, but you know what, only practice is the only thing which will build that mental strength in us. Is that true?
Only practice?
Yes.
Did you say?
Yes, they say, like, for example, yesterday I had a few girls with me from the women's team. Sorry. Please go ahead.
I think it's the ability and the desire of the individuals to search out the key moments is the main underpinning success indicator of success. And you can practice pressure moments. You can create pressure moments in practice, but taking it to the next stage in those games, in the matches, whether you're a golfer or whether you're a cricketer, somebody like Tiger Woods as a golfer, when he got to the front and people were chasing him, that's when he became better and better and better. And that's exactly the same in cricket. And from England's point of view, people like Alistair Cook, who's recently retired, he would go in at the top of the order and be totally unfazed by who was going at him, who was bowling at him, the situation of the game. He would be in complete control of what he was trying to perform, what he was trying to create. And that is so important. And he would seek out those moments. He would take that responsibility of being the opening batsman and setting the stall out for the rest of the team.
I think you've really given an amazing example of Alistair Cook. I know a lot of people think that he was too slow in his game. He would slow down the match, but I personally believe, like Misbah ul Haq, people say that Misbah was very slow a batsman, but I think these are the people who understood their responsibility and they performed true to their potential, knowing their responsibility, isn't it?
I think the observer, the casual observer, would never appreciate the amount of courage and the nerve that it takes to perform in that unselfish way, to perform that in a way that your team and the situation demands. It's far easier to get a flashy 20 or flashy 30, look good, and get out rather than get a slow, really match affecting 60 or 70. And those for me are the real performers.
Absolutely, and I'm full agreement with you on this one because I have this uh, argument a lot of times. People they say, no, no, anybody can go and tuk like that, and we call it tuk here.
Hmm.
I think you know that, like Misbah was known as the tuk player, but,
Yeah.
but it really at that level.
Mhm.
And Jeff, I'll take this to the towards the end, and my next question to you is for advice for or what people should do to grow from from good to great. There are good players. How can they become great?
Uh, um, Try to extend themselves as much as possible. As I said in the last sentence, search out those key moments, enjoy those key moments, and make sure that you're extending yourself in practice or in performance or in preparation whenever you possibly can. And if you're doing that, then you're maximizing whatever talent, physical or mental, that you have. And if you're doing that, then you're going to find out areas that you didn't know existed within yourself.
Absolutely. Jeff, I always tell people that in life, we must do things seriously, but we should never become serious. The problem is, we have taken the element of enjoyment out of our lives, out of our games, out of our sports, and all we are looking at is what you call instant gratification instead of a long term happiness, long term enjoyment. And I believe that is one of the missing elements for those who are not
Absolutely.
able to go to the next level, that they do not understand that life is about play, sports is about anything you take is about enjoyment. The more you enjoy, the more happier you are, the better you will perform. Isn't that the way it works in that level, Jeff?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Ali. And a big part of that enjoyment comes from maximizing the task in front of you.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jeff. Jeff, I really, really am honored, as always, to have a chat with you, and I'm gonna bother you a couple of times more again in future. And I know that you've always been kind enough to give me your lend me your ears and your valuable time. Jeff, before I wrap it up, your last 2 cents.
Last two.
Cents, I mean the last your advice or your anything you want to share with the listeners, especially the young lads.
Oh, well, I mean, you touched on it in terms of enjoyment. It's the enjoyment comes from A, playing the game, B, doing well at the game, and really just enjoying other people's success as well as working as hard as you possibly can for your own success.
Bang on, Jeff. I'm sorry I missed this point. This is before I take your leave. I think we'll need to do a little bit of discussion on this one, viewers. That Jeff pointed out to an amazing fact: enjoy other people's success as well. Unfortunately, today we're becoming so much in us that the factor of jealousy is taking over the good of us. And whether you are in, because especially cricket is a team game, if if you're not enjoying what your team is doing, I think you can never, even no matter how good a player you are, you can never be a match winner or a team player. Isn't that, Jeff?
Absolutely, you picked in a team and you play in a team and you enjoy the team success and you enjoy the individual success within that team, and that's what teamwork is all about, and that's an indisputable fact as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you very much. And it's, as I said, it's a great honor to have you on my show, and I'm sure people have learned a lot. I am getting a lot of messages on my WhatsApp already. Shahzad and his lads are also, listening to us, and I'm sure they would have enjoyed that too. And thank you once again, Jeff. And I will be definitely bothering you very soon. Viewers, thank you for being with us. Thank you for listening this and actually participating in it. And we'll take your leave, Jeff, now, and I'll say thank you very much to viewers, and we'll be closing this broadcast right now. Jeff, you and me will have a chat afterwards. Bye, viewers. Thank you.
Okay, Ali. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.